Welcome, my name is Peter Best and I'm at the 2016 PRRSpective meeting with one of the speakers, Dr. DiPietre, who is the Chief Partner at Knowledge Venture in the States and a well-known economist. He's been talking, in fact, here about the economics of PRRS. Welcome, Dr. DiPietre. Surely we know all there is to know about the economics of PRRS after 20 years or more, don't we?
Well, it's certainly been studied, that's for sure. There's quite a bit in the literature, and the reason is because PRRS is a very significant economic disease of the swine herd. And we've been able to do something quite interesting that we're reporting at this meeting, Peter, because we were able to get data from differentially challenged animals from a particular trial. The animals were put into groups and they were given different levels of challenge of the PRRS virus. And so what was created was something much more likely to be the natural or typical way that the virus presents itself in the building, and that is not equally impacting every animal, but in fact developing in subpopulations of animals that are differentially affected.
And the economic impact will be different in those subpopulations.
Yes.
And that tells you more than a herd average.
Exactly. Because if you look at the literature now, almost every study that looks at the economic impact of PRRS does it through a very common and useful tool called the partial budget. But the partial budget looks at the change on average for the key economic factors that are impacted. For instance, they will often measure the average daily gain of healthy animals and then compare the average daily gain for a whole building, for instance, or a closeout to that of ones that have the PRRS virus compared to the healthy ones. But when you compare those two averages, what you miss is the fact that underlying those averages is a distribution of growth rates. And in fact, when PRRS affects the growth rate of pigs, for instance, in finishing, and the average changes, I think many producers have this sort of simplified idea, even though they know better, but they think about it in terms of all the animals are growing at one rate and now all the animals change to another rate. And in fact, what we're able to use or discover with this data is that as these subpopulations develop and form into differential groups of animals in the building, that the economic impact, when you measure it more truly with these subpopulations, is greater than you'll discover with these average change results.
Our idea of the economic impact of PRRS, in fact, we think it's a more expensive disease than we thought before?
Yes, especially if we understand it in a more realistic method of measuring it. Because most animals are sold into value propositions at the packer, which penalize animals which are either too heavy or too light. And if you think of the animals all coming into the slaughter plant at one average weight, you really miss the true outcome of how they're priced.
Yeah.
And so when PRRS strikes and creates a new set of subpopulations of distributions that grow slowly, waiting for those to get through the packer matrix either dramatically slows the turns of the building if we wait for them, or if they have to be evacuated because the group behind is coming and we're practicing all in and all out, then we're sacrificing a lot of underdeveloped animals, lightweight animals at not only less throughput, but at lower prices.
So you're giving a new way of evaluating the economic impact of the disease, and also a way of deciding better what is the value of protection, any intervention measures that you may take.
Exactly. What we're doing is trying to understand the PRRS virus as we want to understand it in a precision agriculture process. where we now are measuring the economic impact of each animal and assembling it rather than checking or trying to estimate it for an average and multiplying it across every animal.
Yes.
And what we're discovering really is prevention is the foundation for precision, for establishing precision and benefiting from it.
Thank you very much, Dr. DiPietre.
You bet.
This is Peter Best at the European Perspective meeting. Thank you for joining us.